to living a Jewish life, and it's not any different when it comes to learning Torah. When I was 5 or 6 years old, I lived in a small country town called Bathurst, New Brunswick, where my father had a store. There were 5 or 6 Jewish families, and my father had just arrived from Europe, and he opened the store in Bathurst, New Brunswick. And when I was about 5 or 6 years old, one day, into our home marched a Melamed, who my father had hired to come and teach his children. There was no talk of a Beit Knesset. There wasn't a Beit Knesset. There was never a minyan. There was no minyan. Yiddishkeit, what you found in the house, that was Yiddishkeit. And my father brought in a Melamed. And at the same time, he offered the other families in the town, there were another 4 or 5, he said, do you want to share in the Melamed? If you want to, you're welcome to use him. Nobody wanted to share. But my father, Baruch Hashem, had a family with 6 children, and we all learned from the Melamed. When my sister Shani, may she rest in peace, became 12 years old, in the same town where we were living, my mother looked at my father, and my father looked at my mother, and my mother said, that's it. We have to leave the town. Can't live among Goyim. She's 12 years old. And so my father and mother went to Montreal, bought a house, and we all moved to Montreal. He kept the store, but we all moved to Montreal. And he signed me up with my brother to the Lubavitcher Yeshiva, and the girls went to the local schools. When I got married, and I was fortunate enough to find my wife, and we had our first 2 children, Tzvi and Malka, we had to send them to school. So where do you send them? To the Talmud Torah. Except that the Talmud Torah taught everything but Torah. They taught Hebrew and a few other Jewish subjects. But if you saw your teacher smoking on Shabbos in the street, that wasn't supposed to be surprising, because he was a good Hebrew teacher. So we looked around for a place that we could educate our children. And there weren't any really good schools. There was no Bnei Akiva yeshivas. There were a few Hasidic yeshivas, which were very far from our house. We wanted our kids to have a Jewish education. What could we do? So, in summer camp, we sent him to Camp Gan Yisrael. When he came home from Hebrew school, from Talmud Torah, I had my cousin's son, who was a Chabadnik, who used to teach Tzvi privately. And this was supposed to be our Jewish life, which we figured is not much of a Jewish life. And we made a decision to come and live in Israel. That's 48 years ago. I started off by saying that not everything you try and do you succeed. we, Baruch Hashem, succeeded. We succeeded in coming to live in Israel and to being able to provide a Jewish life for our children, and to be able, for me now, who I celebrated my 82nd birthday last week, I just saw my great-grandson make a Basium. Is that success? Nobody wants to fail, but not everybody wants to succeed enough to make sure that he succeeds. You have to want to enough. Everybody wants to succeed, but you have to want to enough. You have to make sure that you know that you check out the school and you check out the teachers and you check out what your children are doing and you follow it up. And then you can see it. When your great-grandson makes a Basium, you can say, Baruch Hashem. I want to thank Tamara and Tzvi, first of all, for hosting us tonight. It's a beautiful, beautiful spread, and I'm sure everybody of us who are here appreciates it, as do I. One of our great successes is Tzvi. Why do I refer to him, even though because we're in his house? Because the path that your firstborn takes is usually the path which is followed by your other children. If your first and oldest child starts, God forbid, on the wrong way, you could also, God forbid, have your other children following the wrong way. But if you have one which turns out to be a leader, and which is a success, so the brother and the sisters that follow are also leaders and also successful and are also examples for their children and their grandchildren. Baruch Hashem, we can call this a success. My wife and I, when we look around and we see what we have here in Israel, you know, we didn't come to Israel out of need. The truth is, we did come out of need for Yiddishkeit. But we didn't come for need financially. I was so successful in Chutz La'aretz. I was making so much money that the reason they told me not to come was because I was so successful. My father, I remember, came to me and he says to me, look, you just started off in the insurance business. You're doing so well. Look how much money you're making. But you're only in it a year. Stay a couple of years. You'll go to Israel. You'll have a couple of $100,000 in your bank. Will it be bad? You're here now. You're doing good. Stay. I said, Dad, we decided to come. We're coming. He took all his ammunition. He did everything he could because we were the leaders in our family. He tried to get my uncles and my cousins and everybody to talk him into talking me into not going. He went to the Lubavitcher Yeshiva, to the Rosh Yeshiva, to Rabbi Kramer, and he said to him, my Mendele, he wants to go to Israel. my wife and I are not as young as we used to be. Now we could really, he could help around the house, around us and so on. Maybe you'll call him in for a talk and you'll speak to him and you'll tell him that now is not the time to come. So Rabbi Kramer phoned me, and he was very close to me. I was a Talmud. And I came in and I sat down, and he says to me, look, your father's not as young as he used to be. Your mother is not a well woman. You have all your friends, your cousin. You're doing good in business. Maybe you delay it for a year or two. I said to him, Rabbi Kramer, we decided to go, we're going. And we came. And about 4 or 5 years later, Rabbi Kramer's son was getting married in Israel. So he came to Israel to come to be at the wedding. So where does he stay? He stays by us. And he's in the house. He says, I want to talk to you. I said, okay. And he sat me down in a private room and he said, you were right and I was wrong. There was so much meaning in that too, from a person like him to admit and to say, why? Because he saw my children. He saw their behavior. He saw how they conduct themselves. And he knew we could never have done it had we stayed in Canada. Never. Could have tried, but I doubt if we would have had the chance for success as here. And now I'm standing here in Yerushalayim with all my closest and dearest. And I'm looking around, I'm saying to myself, what a schus I have to be able to be here and to witness this and to know that my children are going in the right path. Baruch Hashem. Thank you.